Hopefully, since I'm not connecting issues, but hopefully everything is fine on the other side. But hey, guys, we're back talking time with caffeine, and and this and we are continuing our multiverse look. We've done Spider-Man, we've done Halloween, and now we're doing the Terminator multiverse.
And then whichever franchise we come up with next, I guess that's for the future to decide.
So overall, what do you guys think of the Terminator?
Oh,
First two movies are good. Afterward, I not so much.
I agree. The first two movies are masterpieces. Third one is meh, but compared to the movies afterwards, it's a masterpiece. So, Terminator Salvation, it's okay. Five, Terminator Dark Fate. Oh, I can see why people were pissed about that.
Yeah, Dark Fate. I mean, we'll get into it later. Dark Fate, they wasted the opportunity with bringing Linda Hamilton back.
Yeah, but they waste a lot of things. But let's not jump too far ahead. So
Yeah.
All right. So we'll start with let's start it all. That's in all the timelines. You're like I'm that aware of at least. I think that's still canon. Terminator 1, the 84 movie.
that movie's a masterpiece. I remember that was one of the first R-rated movies that I ever saw, and I remember I got into the Terminator games because of the Terminator video games. It was all the video games that were a tie-in to Terminator 3. So, and then, that got me into the Terminator franchise. So, then I saw Terminator 1 for the first time. And yeah, what I love about Terminator 1, how it departs from the rest of the series, it's much more of like a horror film.
Yeah, it is a lot more of a horror movie. It's also a very unique kind of horror movie because the Terminator in the first movie is probably one of the only like slasher villains that like freely uses like guns instead of like melee weapons and all that. Like I think the only other like slasher villain of sorts that uses them sometimes maybe like Ghostface from the Scream movies, and even that's mainly the knife.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to come up with another slasher movie villain where the killer never uses a knife. Instead, they use a gun.
Yeah, and the whole idea is that it blends in with like regular people.
Right.
I mean, and it's funny because jumping ahead a little bit, Terminator 2 does that even more. Effectively with the T-1000, but that's more of an action movie.
Yeah, and I totally understand that they didn't want to just make the first movie all over again. But we're jumping ahead. But what I also love about the first Terminator, I absolutely love the musical score by, I think his name's Brad Fiedel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the best scores I've ever heard to a sci-fi film.
Yeah, like you got. I can't even name most of the tracks. Like it's a lot of the chase music. Like it's got like that 80s techno feel to it.
Right.
And I think I could be wrong here, but I think this is one of the first movies that actually had time travel rules that had to follow.
Yeah, time travel. Basically, so it's a one-way trip. Like once you go through, you're not going back to the time period you came from. And also, only organic matter can pass through. That's why every time they go through time, they always go through naked. They come out naked, and they have to like get clothing from something. And that's also the reason why the Terminator has to have like the human flesh. Like it's not just for infiltration; it's also to get them through the time machine, basically, because otherwise they couldn't.
Makes sense. But yeah, and what I mentioned this during my thing that pissed me off the movie too, Rise of the JWs. The original choice to play the Terminator wasn't Arnold Schwarzenegger; it was O.J. Simpson.
Oh, and guess what reason why they didn't want to cast O.J. Simpson?
I know the reason why, but
Yeah, around the same time, some stuff happened.
It was about 10 years before that stuff happened, but do you care to know why they didn't want to put O.J. Simpson as the Terminator?
it's funny because James Cameron said, "Oh, I don't see him like as the killer type." That's hilarious.
I think I remembered reading that what he said was, "Oh, I couldn't imagine a nice guy like him playing a killer."
That's hilarious.
Uh-huh.
And I also heard that Arnold Schwarzenegger actually was considered to play Kyle Reese, but then James Cameron thought he would make a better fit for the Terminator.
My understanding is that Arnold's English still wasn't all that great when they made the first movie. So, and like, maybe he had a bit more of a thick accent, like compared to like later movies he did.
Right.
And from what I understand, that kind of added to like the robotic feel of like the Terminator he played in the first movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. This wasn't his first movie, but I think it's probably one of his earlier movies.
It was far from his first movie. His actual first movie is one that he does not like to talk about. It's called Hercules in New York.
Oh yeah, I know what movie you're talking about. And
yeah, like basically there's two different versions of the movie. One that uses Arnold's actual voice, where he was speaking English but not very well. And there's another version where he was dubbed over by an actor that sounds nothing like him.
Yeah, and didn't he do Conan the Barbarian before Terminator?
I think Conan the Barbarian was like either a little bit before or around the same time. Maybe. No.
When did he do Conan the Barbarian?
Maybe it was 82 or 3, and then Terminator 1 was 84.
Time to Google this shit.
Okay, it was 1982, so it was...
so Conan the Barbarian was first.
Yep. And it also had James Earl Jones in it. But yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of very memorable moments in the first Terminator. Like, there's that part, there's a part where he says his iconic line, "I'll be back," and then afterwards, he and then just crashes through it. I thought about.
Yeah. Now, was this movie considered like a grandfather paradox or something like that, or a time loop, or what?
What do you mean?
Well, John Connor sends Kyle back in time to give birth to himself, or give birth to him, kind of.
Yeah.
Is that a loop or something, or?
I haven't watched the first Terminator since I saw a re-release of it back in 2015, so maybe I have to rewatch it. But as far as I remember, like, Kyle Reese goes back in time to, to make sure John Connor is born.
Yeah. Because
I don't know. Back in time, to kill Sarah Connor, so that way John Connor cannot be born.
But I don't know that Kyle Reese knows that he is John Connor's father.
See, that's the interesting thing. I'm not sure if John Connor even had even had a separate father, like in an earlier timeline, or if it always was meant to be Kyle Reese because of the time travel thing. But
yeah, maybe they explore that in the Sarah Connor Chronicles TV show, which I've never seen, so I don't remember them elaborating on that in the other sequels, so kind of hard for me to say.
So did they have? I think they. Now, was this like a an '80s movie, like had a lot of '80s themes going on and stuff?
Oh yeah, like Linda Hamilton's hair definitely is 80s. The music's definitely 80s. Definitely has the 80s vibe. Some of the effects may not hold up all that well. Like there's this part where the Terminator's cutting out his eye, and you can tell it's not really Arnold, and instead that you can tell it's a robot. So some of the effects don't hold up, but other than that,
Oh yeah, like sorry I was muted. You're probably talking about the one clip where he had to do surgery on his eye, and like it was very obviously like rubber.
yeah, like you still could tell that it wasn't really Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, except for when they do the jump cut between him putting the sunglasses on.
Yeah, so that effect doesn't really hold up. But yeah. But
Oh,
other
you
than
also
that,
have when
solid movie.
the moment where the tanker explodes and then the Terminator itself comes out and it's only like the machine left, like all the flesh is burned off. They did use some like puppetry and practical effects, like when you didn't see its whole body on screen, like for like close-ups and all that. But whenever the full body is on screen, they use stop motion,
Yep.
and like it looks very uncanny.
And also, the kids nowadays might know this, but in the movie, the Terminator had to use a thing called a phone book to look up all the Sarah Connors in the neighborhood.
Yeah, which is funny because I don't even think phone books even are a thing anymore.
I think they were a thing as far as like the early 2000s, but
Yeah, yeah, they were a thing in the early 2000s, but I'm talking about nowadays in the 2020s. I don't even think, a matter of fact, I don't think I know anybody who has a phone book now.
Yeah, yeah, he had to go through. Anyways, he had to go through all the Sarah Connors in the phone book, like one by one, to find out which one was. Just kill them all. I don't know which ones went. Those kill all the Sarah Connors.
Yeah, and yeah, that I thought kind of added to the suspense, knowing that he was going after all of these people knowing he was going after all these people like named Sarah Connor. And I remember seeing this meme on Facebook once where they parodied that scene, and Arnold said, "Mrs. Viva, yes, boom, boom." So yeah, so rather than assassinating Sarah Connor, Arnold Schwarzenegger was trying to assassinate Justin Bieber's mom.
Oh.
I thought that was funny.
Did you ever see the Robot Chicken parody of Inspector Gadget?
oh yeah, where they parody like the ending of Terminator. Yeah, I saw that one.
So yeah, so yeah, the first Terminator, I can honestly feel like that I can rewatch it over and over and over again, and I feel like that I can never get tired of it. But yeah, I think the cast is great. The music's great, the directing's great. A few of the effects may not hold up, but other than that, I think it's still a pretty solid movie.
And in the end, he had the Kyle guy got killed too, along with the Terminator.
Yeah, and I also love, on that ending shot, like when the Terminator's head gets crushed, and then she says, "You're terminated, fucker."
Yeah.
That was great. And what I liked about it, it was a mixture of a horror film with a little bit of romance too.
Oh yeah. I don't know, like I think like when it comes to the horror elements, like I mean the one example you got me thinking of is like after the moment like when Kyle like blows the pipe bomb and like it blows the Terminator in half. And then like Sarah's like wounded by shrapnel like in the leg, like she crawls up to Kyle, sees that he's dead, and then then of course you have like a quiet moment, like when you see that. All of a sudden, the half of the Terminator gets up. There's like a massive scare cord.
Right.
Yeah, like
He's crawling.
yeah, like crawls after her, and because she has a messed up leg, like she can't do much to get away. And then that's when she crushes it with the hydraulics because like it's about to get a hand around her neck to choke her to death.
Yeah, and
Then later,
yeah,
in the sec-
Because that's the thing with the Terminator in the original movie. Like, it really is a cold, unfeeling machine that does not feel anything other than completing its mission. Like, Terminators in the later movies were able to show other, like, even the villainous Terminators freaking showed some kind of emotions. Like, T-1000 in Terminator 2 was a bit of a sadist, and then Terminator 3, the TX from Terminator 3, is interesting, but I guess we can get to that later.
yeah, which I feel like that made the Terminator in the first movie that much, I feel like that made him that much more horrifying. The fact that he didn't feel any emotion.
Yeah, and like it's literally exactly how like that one line of dialogue that Kyle Reese gives. It can't be bargained with, it can't be reasoned with, it doesn't feel pity, remorse, or fear, and it won't stop ever till you're dead.
Yep, pretty much. And other than that, I can't really think of anything else to say about the original movie.
yeah.
Pretty much the only other thing I can say about the first movie is that it led to one of the only good game adaptations, which was the Sega CD game.
Yeah.
Because most Terminator games, they suck ass.
Yeah,
And
like
we'll get to that a little bit later.
Yeah, a little bit later, but the Sega CD game, that one's actually good. Like, I mean, not like the best, but like it's still decent and probably one of the best games on the Sega CD.
but yeah, compared to Terminator on the NES, I know that the Angry Video Game Nerd did a review of it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That game was terrible. But
yeah, the NES one was bad. The Super Nintendo one was bad. I think the Genesis version was not good either. But no, he also talked about the Sega CD one, and like he even said that one was good. Like,
yeah,
not without its problems, like you can't freely aim like you could in a game like Contra, but yeah.
And I believe that that's one of the few Terminator games back in the 90s that actually had the Terminator theme in it.
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah, and
the funny thing is, it's not even pulled straight from the movie. It's like an original remix that was made by like the game's composer.
Yeah, and what I love about the Terminator theme is that I feel like the theme can work both, like both as like a romantic theme, and it can work, and it also can work like for like an intense action scene. So yeah, the Terminator theme, it's very simple. I think that's my first video on YouTube actually. My first video on YouTube actually is me playing the Terminator theme on the piano.
Hmm. Can you still do that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, piano. Right, you have piano right now. You can or keyboard on.
Well, my piano is in my kitchen, so. So, anyways, let's move on to Terminator 2.
Yeah, which apparently launched the career of Robert Patrick.
Yes, it did.
Fitting to start with that. Robert Patrick is the actor who played the T-1000, which was... Oh, here's an interesting thing to bring up with Terminator 2. You wouldn't know it nowadays because, well, everybody's spoiled it, but here's the thing. The fact that Robert Patrick was playing the villain, that was supposed to be a twist.
Like, yeah, it was, but then, all the trailers ruined it.
Well, actually, the trailers of the time, all the trailers from the time period, except for maybe the last one, actually did not give it away. like from what I understand, a lot of the early marketing did make it seem like Arnold was playing the villain again. And then when you watch the movie itself, they leave it like they don't show the T-1000 directly killing anyone or doing anything until like the moment like where he starts to come up on John Connor himself. And then like it's supposed to be a big twist when freaking Arnold shows up like in the hallway as John's running away from the T-1000. And it's supposed to be a big twist that Arnold is the one to grab John and shield him as the T-1000 tries to shoot him.
Yeah, and what I like about Terminator 2 is that in a lot of ways it's the first movie in reverse. Like, Arnold was the bad guy in the first movie, but now Arnold is the good guy. And then ever since Terminator 2, Arnold like always has been like the good guy.
Yeah, Arnold has, well, with a handful of exceptions, like in the later movies, Arnold has not played like the bad Terminators again.
Yeah, Terminator 2 was the first movie I ever saw of the Terminator franchise. I rented some time in the 90s. I rented a VHS of it at my local not Blockbuster, but Blockbuster equivalent store.
Right.
And I couldn't see Terminator 1 until years later because it was rated R, and I think Terminator was PG-13 or something.
Well,
no, the first 3 movies are rated R.
And then,
really?
Yeah. Terminator Salvation was the first one to be rated PG-13.
And there is an R-rated cut of Salvation out there, I believe.
Oh, I had no idea that even existed.
Yeah, I have a Blu-ray set of the first 4 movies, and on the back of the box, there's 2, and on the disc of Salvation, there's 2 cuts of the movie. One is supposedly rated R.
Oh, I had no idea.
I don't think it does that much to get the R rating back. Like, that's typically how it is for, like, PG unrated cuts of PG-13 movies, but yeah. That would leave the 5th movie, Genesis, the only one that's completely PG-13.
Yeah, Terminator Genesis PG-13. They finally went back to the R rating with Dark Fate, but that didn't save the movie whatsoever.
That did not save it one little bit. But yeah.
Then I guess that's weird. I guess my video store didn't do cards then. Because I remember reading that movie.
I think there is one thing that the second movie had that was a bit lighter than the first one. The second movie didn't have nudity in it, I don't think.
Maybe that's it.
Because there is a sex scene in the first movie.
Oh
yeah,
definitely.
Because I remember reading that movie before I was 17, I think. I'm just forgetting something, but I remember watching that movie way before I was...
Wait, you rented it when you were 17?
Before I was 17.
Before you were 17. Oh, because I was about to say, if you said 17, well, 17 is how old you have to be for R-rated stuff.
Let's say my brain's dead. I'm pretty sure I saw that movie way before I was 17. Because it came out when I was 11.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I love about Terminator 2 is like that, the fact that the bad guy is a cop, and and the fact that Robert Patrick looks just like a generic, ordinary looking cop, and so then therefore it makes you think that you can trust him. But
and that's the thing. Anytime Robert Patrick's like playing the role of the cop, like trying to get the info, like he plays it extremely naturally. Like the Terminator in the original movie did not do any of that, did not have that same natural feel to him, and like I don't even think like the TX matched that.
Oh, definitely not. And that's what makes Robert Patrick such a horrifying villain, just the fact that he could seem that natural, like as like a normal cop. And and just the fact that everybody would think that he was a normal cop.
Like, even like during the first chase scene where like John's on his electric bike and Robert Patrick starts chasing it. And then the funny thing is Robert Patrick actually went through an intense training regime to make himself run that fast while not having to like pace himself or breathe or anything like a machine wouldn't need to. And he apparently overdid it because when they did the first take of the chase scene as they're like leaving the mall, apparently Robert Patrick moved so fast he actually caught up to John Connor on the bike.
Holy crap!
Yeah, so he had to like pace himself to slow down a bit.
That's impressive.
But yeah, like the whole thing with that chase scene is that the thing is, I believe John Connor is established as a known delinquent in town, so the fact that a cop is chasing after him did not bat any eyes from the pedestrians.
Yeah,
So that's
and
another thing about the scene that works.
I also have to admit, just the fact that they made the T1000 made out of liquid metal, I think that idea was badass.
I mean, it's one of the earliest examples of like heavy CG usage in a movie.
Yeah, and and for the T1000, it works because it'll be pretty much impossible to do liquid metal with practical effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to do that as CGI is completely justifiable.
Yeah.
I also like there's continuity in the movies too because there's a picture of him from 10 years ago, Arnold in the police station from when he murdered all the cops in the first movie.
But yeah, so there's a lot of people say Terminator 2 is better than the first one. I'm one of those people where I like them both just as much. What do you two say? Do you two think
I can't decide.
I just say being at the first movie, I saw all of it. I guess I have more nostalgia for the second movie because I didn't see the first movie till I was in my 20s almost. Years later, because I was 4 when the first movie came out, so I couldn't see it back. Couldn't see it when I was 4 years old, so I didn't see it then.
Yeah, makes sense because the first movie has a lot of swearing and and there's a lot of violence in it.
Yeah, there is a lot less violence in the second. I mean, it's still there, especially like with the T1000's kills. But yeah,
Yeah, I like. He was kind of John made rule like no killing, like shoot him in the knee or something like that.
Oh yeah, that was actually a little bit. There was a little bit of dark humor to that scene too. Like when John stops him from shooting the guy, and John Connor's like, "What were you doing? You're gonna kill that guy." Hey, of course.
Yeah, and what I love about Terminator 2 is the fact that the Terminator, the T800, I like that he played a father figure, to John Connor, and
yeah, like that, like that's the whole thing. Like both Terminators and Terminator 2 are shown to be developing like more like feelings and emotion that you don't think a machine would have. Like you have the T800 with Arnold basically becoming a father figure to John himself. It's like John like teaches him like what it means to be human, basically. Like he has like there's the scene in the truck where he's like teaching him how to talk with people, like saying stuff like "no problemo," "hasta la vista, baby," and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And then you also have the T1000. Like I mentioned before, like one thing. I mean, one of the things that makes the T1000 unsettling is that he's subtly shown to take sadistic pleasure with the stuff he does. Like particularly like in the final confrontation, like when he's like some people try to justify it by saying that it was malfunctioning at the time and it was doing what it needed to do to track down John, but it corners Sarah. It gets her like, or it stabs her with like he like changes like his finger like into a blade and stabs her, and then he goes, "Call to John. I know this hurts, Call John now. Like, I kind of like the cold delivery there. But the thing is, people are wondering, why didn't he just mimic Sarah and, like, do it and start doing it there? And, like, there's, like, a subtle implication that it enjoyed what it was doing. It was doing it just because it could. And then, of course, there's the moment where Sarah, takes the shotgun, like, and like a badass, like, shoots the T-1000 and almost puts it in the vat of, like, what was it called that it fell in?
Acid lava.
Yeah, that lava or
Like that lava substance, like the molten, like she almost knocked it in, but then she ran out of ammo. And then when it recovers, it wastes precious seconds it could have used to finish Sarah and John to do a tisk tisk finger wag at them.
Yeah, I remember at the time I think it was in the better graphics of the CG era where it split open, you know.
Like, it did it just because it wanted to be an ass. It wanted to, like, be like, up, I win. Oops, no, I didn't. Arnold's back. Grenades. He fired a grenade.
Is it just me? Was early 90s CGI better than the later 2000 CGI?
I agree.
That's what a lot of people would say.
And one of the most emotional scenes of Terminator 2 is that part when the TA-800 says to John Connor, Now I understand why you cry.
That scene.
That was one of the most emotional scenes.
Especially, I mean, it also helps that it looks emotional when saying the line.
Yeah, exactly, and you know, and the fact that the Terminator sacrificed himself at the very end.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's one more chip that must be destroyed. Point to his head.
And then you have the AVGN Pepsi Man episode that parodies that.
Yeah. And that's where
where the TV game guy, it's like, oh, I'll hold on to this chain and you lower me down so I can die with dignity. AVGN just goes, pushes the ball.
But yeah, this is where the franchise should have wrapped up with. Should have.
Yeah, like, this is jumping ahead way early. There is one more thing that lots of, like, diehard Terminator fans will accept as canon, but we'll get to that later.
But
like, there is one more thing.
Do you think that I talk about this movie? One, there's the scene where they go try killing the guy that create the Skynet. What's his name?
Miles Dyson, I think was his name.
Dyson, was. and he gets up dying, you know, and he does the bomb himself almost. He dies. He lets go of the trigger.
I think the actor that played him actually knew how, like when before he drops the trigger, like, he very realistically is, like, gasping for air because, like, he was, like, wounded, like, lung shot or something like that. And I think the actor that played him actually had an experience with an injury like that, so he was able to perfectly recreate it. Just a little trivia fact.
Who was the kid that played John Connor in this movie? Was he
Edward Furlong?
Was he in other things? I remember him.
Edward Furlong also was in this movie about Kiss, where, like, one of the kids' moms is super religious and is against Kiss. I forget.
Oh yeah, he was also in a movie called American History X.
Yeah,
I think. Basically, in that movie, he plays a kid who gets inducted into a crew of neo-Nazis, and it ends with him dying. Because neo-Nazis are bad.
And I believe Edward Furlong also played the Crow in Crow Wicked Prayer. And
yeah,
I don't know what else he has been in.
Yeah, but I like the scene in Terminator 2 where he was the T-1000 pretending to be his foster mom on the phone, and his hand was that way, and killing the stepfather or the stepfather.
Yeah. Yeah, because see, that shows like another. That actually shows like another like sort of. That shows like another like behavior of the T1000 that was like more abnormal. Like it didn't have to like literally all the stepfather did in that scene was just annoy it.
Yeah.
And like it did, like killing him off didn't wasn't in the way of infiltration. Like he just did it because it could.
And
But yeah, Terminator 2, I'll go as far as saying that it's one of the best sequels ever made, and it's one of the best action movies ever made.
now, was the psychologist doctor in the second movie, in the first movie too?
Yeah, the psychologist was in both of them. The first two. He was also in the third one.
So, oh, I also like the one scene in the second movie where she had a vision of the apocalypse or the radiation apocalypse. The kids are on the playground, you know. She's like
Yeah,
fighting
that
for attention.
scene where she gets all her flesh blown off and it's nothing but a skeleton.
Yeah.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
I'm
they stop. Sorry.
I'm kind of curious if they ever had any other plans for Terminator 2. You know, I'm kind of curious if it always was decided to make it more of an action movie rather than a horror film. But you know, ever since Terminator 2, the whole entire franchise, and then would be more action-like, and you know, Arnold, and then Arnold,
Yeah.
the good guy. So you know,
So they stop. They stop. They kill the guy that creates Skynet. Supposedly, they trail the chips. You know, the chip that survived the first movie. That's how I got the. I guess that's how I got the idea from it. He found the arm and the microchip from the first Terminator, and you think, oh, Skynet's it's over with. Skynet's dead, but apparently they were wrong because Terminator 3.
Yeah, the thing with Terminator 3 is I think even when it came out, people just felt it was unnecessary, and they had to overwrite some of the logic from the second movie just to even make the third movie possible.
yeah.
Like James Rolfe said in his review.
Before we get into Terminator 3, did any of you ever play the Terminator 2 arcade game?
I saw a long play of it, but never played it myself.
Either it was one of the first. It wasn't one of the first. I did get Nintendo Power on that time, and they had a whole section of Terminator movie in the Nintendo Power back then.
Yeah, I remember when I had a Sega Genesis back when I was a kid. I remember that I had the Terminator 2 arcade game. I remember I would bring friends over and we would play the crap out of it. But yeah, out of all the older Terminator games, I would say that that's the best one. It's so much fun. But yeah, so anything else to say about Terminator 2?
There is one more thing about Terminator 2. Did either of you go to sorry about this stupid cough I have.
Right.
So there was actually an attraction at Universal Studios called Terminator 2 3D Battle Across Time.
I remember that. And yeah.
I actually got to go onto that.
I also did too. I actually saw it a few years before it shut down, and yeah.
Like it was like I remember freaking when I went on that, like that was like the first like I think that was actually the first time that I saw, like, in universe what Skynet was meant to be before it became self-aware and then made all the Terminators, caused the apocalypse and all that. Like, I also remember you get, like, the Cyberdyne employee, like, being all happy-go-lucky. Then you get the actress playing Sarah and John coming on. I remember when Sarah fired the assault rifle in the air. Like, they made it realistically loud.
Yeah, and And then I remember they got this lookalike actor to play Arnold, and
Yeah, they got lookalike actors for like when they're actually on the stage, but then they play like a short film where they got like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Edward Furlong back to reprise their roles.
Yeah, and
And I think they also got Robert Patrick, I think, to play the T-1000. And then the last obstacle in that short is this giant spider creature called the T-1 which is literally this giant spider-like creature that's made of the liquid metal, and it guards the Skynet core.
I don't remember that part.
It's there. I'm not making that up.
I wonder if they have like that T2 3D show on YouTube. They probably.
I'm pretty sure that there is an upload of it on YouTube. In fact, let me look it up.
Yeah, I'm curious now because I don't remember the spider part.
Yeah, like they call it the T-1
That sounds badass. But yeah.
Yeah.
Two, I think it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, if you're curious, it is available on YouTube, the short.
Yeah, now you mention it, I'm extremely curious.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as I know, they took that down and they replaced it with like a Minion show.
There's several shows. There's several attractions like Shrek 4D, the Nickelodeon ride, which was originally a Hanna-Barbera ride. So much shit has been shut down there to make way for more Minions.
Yeah, as far as I know, Shrek 4D got.
Yeah, Shrek 4D got shut down, and it's being replaced with a Minions ride, which is literally right across the street from another Minions ride.
So yeah, they're kind of overdoing it with the Minions crap.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyways, enough about Terminator 2. There's not much else to say.
Yeah.
I remember I had a Terminator 2 game on the original Game Boy. That game confused the crap out of me. Like, there's these towers I remember I would go walk back and forth. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do. It wasn't until when I saw the AVGN review was when I figured out, I actually was supposed to shoot the towers, like, from tallest.
Real quick. If you're going to look up the show, you need to look up, like, you can't just look up the short itself, like the actual live footage they got, like, of the actual actors. You need to look up the full actual show to see the spider thing. Okay? Just letting you know. All right, continue.
All right, so I guess, but yeah. Most of the Terminator 2 games that I remember playing were great, but the one on the Game Boy, the original Game Boy, that game was garbage. Like, like that.
Yeah, one life, no continues.
Yeah, and the fact that I got no hints for what I was supposed to do, so I was walking back and forth. So I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do? So yeah, I guess that's enough said about Terminator 2. Let's move on to Terminator 3.
Yeah. So Snick, was that the game or movie based on the game that you told a story about before about how you couldn't like a year long journey to get a certain game or something?
Oh yeah, Terminator 3. So when it comes to video games based on Terminator 3, there were 3 of them. One of them was a PC game that I'm not very familiar with. One of them was made directly to promote the movie, and it is a obvious beta first-person shooter with these stupid wrestling-style beat-em-up fights with Arnold versus the TX. And I was trying to get a copy of that game to maybe Let's Play it one day, and that never happened, and it's probably not going to happen.
There also was one other Terminator game. Sorry. Go ahead, sorry.
Okay. So first, I try to get a copy for the original Xbox. It does not work. the disc looked perfectly fine, but it did not work. It wouldn't play on my original Xbox at all, and it is backwards compatible with Xbox 360, but it would only play the first level, and then it would break. So then I find another copy online. This one worked, but it had shitloads of glitches playing, and then finally, about halfway through, it went into disk read problems. Like, the universe did not want me to play that shitty game. Finally, I get a PS2 copy, and it finally worked, but yeah. Then they made another Terminator 3 game called Terminator 3 The Redemption. And I guess the idea behind the title is that, well, it's so basically the way they set up Terminator 3 The Redemption is that it starts with, so the whole plot of Terminator 3 is that the Arnold that's sent back from the future was not. Instead, it was actually a Terminator that succeeded in killing John Connor because he hesitated to shoot at it because it looked like the Terminator from Terminator 2, like the father figure.
Right.
So instead, it was sent back, it was reprogrammed and sent back by John Connor's wife, Catherine Brewster. In fact, in the present day portions, this Terminator only obeys Kate's commands. It doesn't obey John's.
But yeah.
So basically, in Terminator 3 The Redemption, you actually play the prologue, like when the Terminator's reprogrammed and like it's like getting to the time displacement machine. Then you play the plot of the movie for a little bit. Then they insert this weird moment where the TX somehow friggin' sends Arnold through another time portal that somehow it creates. And you're sent to an alternate future where humanity lost the war against the machines, and literally it's nothing but a wasteland filled with like these giant machines. So you fight through all that, you make it, and then you make it back to the present day, and then the rest of the movie plays out. So the whole, like, I guess that's one thing with the redemption title. Like, it's like, oh, Arnold failed to protect John Connor, so now he's got to redeem himself. And then some people also took the title as meaning, oh, the game is so much better than the first Terminator 3 game. It is better than the first Terminator 3 game, and truth is, there was a pretty decently long amount of time where lots of people did actually consider it the best Terminator game ever made. I personally fucking hated it.
Yeah, yeah. I remember that I played that as a kid, and yeah, I remember that I personally enjoyed it, but you know, I would rather play that than Rise.
Yeah, it is definitely a better game than Rise of the Machines, but the one thing that kills it is the brutal difficulty.
Well, for anyone interested, in the side chat, I linked Snick's review of that game, two-part review of that game. Anybody wants to watch it from 5 years ago.
Like, I do not like the driving controls in that game because they make you do. So you take this PS4 controller. Like, it's not like the controller the game used. You know how most driving games you like press X or A or whatever, and then you steer with like the left stick, or maybe like it'll be like the shoulder button, like you're pressing a gas pedal. I'm trying to show it on webcam like this. You know how you drive in Terminator 3 The Redemption? You do this to go forward, and then you gotta like twist it around like this to do your turns. All the driving is done just with this left stick. That's it.
Because I can't link it on your chat, Eric. Because I'm not a moderator.
All right, so
I guess I could try to make you a moderator. Here, I'm on my phone.
All right, so the plot of the third movie. we think that it's been postponed, but John's still staying off the grid, just in case,
Here,
I guess.
Vandalia, if you want to be a moderator, try to comment. Leave a comment.
Right.
So I actually am streaming this on my channel. So if you go on my channel and leave a comment there, then then as soon as you do that, then yep, okay, add moderator. All right, you are now a moderator.
Awesome. So like I was saying, he's off the grid, no cell phones, no nothing. His mom apparently died of cancer.
Yeah, because Linda
Leukemia.
Hamilton didn't want to come back.
Yeah, so instead, what they did was that they had like an audio recording. I heard that Linda Hamilton and James Cameron were married, but then James Cameron cheated on her. And so I believe that played into why she didn't come back to the Terminator series for the longest time. But yeah, so and also and Edward Furlong didn't come back to play John Connor. Instead, they got some actor who hasn't been in anything else as far as I know.
Yeah, the actor's name I think was Nick Stahl, I think.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
right.
he actually did show up in one thing. He showed up in a web series for freaking stupid Fear the Walking Dead. Like he played like a submarine captain in that. That's the only other thing I know he was in.
Right. So in this movie, they're trying to kill John Connor's wife or something, or girlfriend.
No, they still want to kill John Connor, but they also want to kill his wife.
Yeah.
And the TX was also sent back in time to kill all the people who would like become like his high-ranking like generals, like lieutenants, and all that. Like
Yeah,
basically killing off his army.
one criticism that I've heard of Terminator 3, in a lot of ways, it's just a repeat of Terminator 2, which I could definitely see that.
I was wondering about Terminator 3 at the time. I didn't do this. I was wondering why didn't they make Arnold a T1000 upgrade?
That is actually kind of a theme they try to go for in Terminator 3, that Arnold is like a severely outdated machine, whereas the TX, not only does the TX have the liquid metal coating, it also has a robotic skeleton like the original Terminator, and it can make weapons out of its it can make these giant laser blasts out of its hand. Like it can also reprogram like cars and other machines.
Yeah, I think in the second movie they perfectly said the T1000 cannot make guns. It can only do like blade and stuff.
Well, no, like, in fact, kind of the TX having the liquid metal is kind of pointless because they don't really utilize it all that much except for, like, disguises, which is only, like, it's only, like, in, like, the beginning of the movie. Like, at one point, the TX disguises itself as Kate's boyfriend.
Yeah, and some of
That's the only one I can recall.
Shootout's pretty dope. I definitely do agree. I think that that's one of the best action scenes in the entire series. I definitely do agree. The graveyard shootout was fantastic.
So I think I can't remember wrong. I think they tried to mention or not mention, or they tried to make some kind of party thing that he went to the second movie, mentioned in the third movie, to tie it together or something.
I don't know.
Maybe I was remembering it wrong, but
But yeah, Terminator 3 compared to the other sequels is You know, besides Terminator 2, Terminator 3 is a masterpiece compared to some of the movies afterwards.
Yeah, like even people who don't like the movie do admit that its ending what had a lot of guts and is overall pretty mature.
Yeah. And it also was the last one to be rated R for a
Until
long,
Dark Fate came out, yeah.
yeah, until Dark Fate came along. But yeah, Terminator 3, not as good as Terminator 1 and 2. I mean, it's a decent popcorn flick. I can watch it, but it's definitely not as good as Terminator 1 and 2. But, I can still watch it. But
I
yeah,
think I think the whole purpose of Terminator 3 was to tell you was I think the theme of that was like fate or destiny cannot be overridden. The thing.
And that which completely contradicted the second movie, which said yes you can overwrite fate and destiny.
so Terminator 3 is by no means a perfect movie. I mean, the first two movies weren't perfect either, but Terminator 3, yeah, a lot of people will agree it's nowhere near as good as the first two. Matter of fact, I haven't met a single person who said that they like Terminator 3 better than the first two.
Yeah. I don't think there is going to be anybody who likes it better than the first two.
Yeah. So, excuse me, anything else to say about Terminator 3?
See,
Nah.
I gotta think.
So, yeah,
Yeah, I really don't remember. Yeah, actually, all I remember was it was his girlfriend. He might have. All I remember was he might have known the girl from his teenage years. They meet again 10 years later, and then at the end or at the end. Oh, the part of the movie doesn't he get reprogrammed or something to be a killer again temporarily? Arnold, the T-Tex reprograms him for a second.
Oh yeah, that's where the TX reprograms him. And then he goes against its programming. Yeah, that scene.
Yeah, and then at the end of the movie, the journal or something, I guess the journal is her father or something,
Yeah.
and he purposely locks them up in the bunker on purpose.
Well, no, he sent them to the bunker on purpose. Like he lied to them, saying that that's where the Skynet core is. That's what you need to do to destroy it. It was really just a bunker for a nuclear fallout, which was meant to get them to survive it.
And I guess at the end he accepts his destiny to be the leader of the resistance.
Yeah.
Hi, it's weird. Hi, I'm a 21-year-old nobody, but I'm your leader now.
Yeah, as far as I know, James Cameron didn't come back for Terminator 3 because
Yeah,
like,
I
he
think he
said
had
that.
nothing to do with 3, 4, and 5.
But yeah, James Cameron really felt like that the series wrapped up with Terminator 2, and I definitely think that he was right. But of course, that they wanted to milk that cow.
Yep.
What's next on the agenda?
Salvation would be next. Unless you want to
Yeah,
talk about the Sarah Connor Chronicles TV series, but I know nothing about that.
Neither do I.
I don't know anything about it. I've never seen it, so I can't say anything about it. Since none of us have seen it, I don't. There's nothing to.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't be wise to talk about it other than it was a thing.
Yeah, it was a thing. None of the actors came back from any of the movies, as far as I know.
All I know about it is that it was an alternate
Okay.
sequel to Terminator 2 that ignored 3 and Salvation.
Okay.
Like, that's all I really know about it. And, yeah, that's about it.
And probably it was probably like trying to it was probably one of the first I think Netflix shows or something like that or Hulu shows.
No, it aired on TV. It
Oh
wasn't
really? Oh,
streaming. It was not streaming.
I must remember that wrong then. Well, never mind then. But yeah, was Salvation in the original timeline still, or was that a new timeline?
Salvation is meant to be a sequel to 3 because it still has Catherine Brewster in it. So I think the implication is that Salvation takes place like after 3.
And what you have to admire about Terminator Salvation is that they actually were trying to be a little bit more original rather than having it, the timeline plot all over again and, a Terminator.
The Terminator chasing after the vital target thing. Instead, they tried to focus more on the future war angle of it.
So, I definitely do applaud them for wanting to do something different, but and I'll give Terminator Salvation that, at least they're trying to be more original. But I remember I was really hyped for Terminator 4 as a kid because there's all this talk about Terminator 4, and there was a lot of talk whether or not if Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to reprise his role because
because he was governor of California at the time.
So yeah, so because of that, there were a lot of talks if he was going to have time to do Terminator Salvation. I mean, he kind of sort of was in Salvation, but it wasn't him.
They just simply used his likeness for a CG model.
So yeah, so it wasn't,
and that actually makes Salvation the only movie in the series to not have Arnold in it.
Yeah, and so because of that, Salvation really sticks out like a sore thumb. And I actually remember people back then were saying, "Oh, there's no Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, so therefore I don't want to go watch it." So I feel like that maybe that's one of the reasons why that underperformed at the box office.
Yeah, was this the first movie that didn't use the numbers?
Yep.
No, yeah, I didn't have a number.
And yeah, and I remember seeing the first trailer for it when I went to go see The Dark Knight. Yeah.
See, I wish I got to see The Dark Knight in theaters. I didn't.
Yeah, I saw The Dark Knight at a midnight showing, and the trailer I saw, it was just a pan shot of this post-apocalyptical, place, and then all of a sudden you see a Terminator machine rise up, and you hear the term that you hear the Terminator theme. But yeah, how do you feel like that Christian Bale did playing John Connor?
I'm not entirely certain what to think. In fact, I think his infamous meltdown on the set kind of like eclipses like what I think of his performance in the movie.
Yeah.
So Dark Knight and Terminator came at the same time. He two set out at the same time. He was the main character.
Yeah, Christian Bale in both of them.
Salvation came out the year after the Dark Knight, and and that had to have been why that they got Christian Bale in it, because they're like, hey.
I mean, they were made by the same studio, because that's the thing with the Terminator movies. They were jumping studios.
They were.
Like, I don't know who did the first movie. The second movie, I think, was done by I don't know the name. Like, was it Carolco or something like that? Like, all I know is that it was like a studio that died in the 90s. Then 3 and 4 were done by Warner Brothers, and then Genesis and Dark Fate were done by Paramount.
Yep.
So
yeah, so the Terminator rights have bounced back and forth quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, Terminator Salvation. I remember I saw it once at the movie theater. I've only seen it once. And, it was a pretty decent movie, It's not one of those movies where I go, oh my God, I have to go watch that again. It's not one of those kind of movies, I can watch it, but, But yeah, I just feel like it is just kind of forgettable, to be honest. while with Terminator 1 and 2, you know, those are movies that I'm never going to forget. But the fourth one, it's watchable, but I can't really remember anything about it.
But yes,
That that is like I said. I remember Christian Bale's freak out on the set because a lighting crew member stepped into the frame when he was like in the middle of method acting. In fact, in his freaking rant, because the thing is, Christian Bale is British, but he plays a lot of roles that require an American accent. In the middle of his freaking angry rant, he mostly speaks in his natural British accent, but kind of humorously, he goes back and forth between the British accent and the American accent, like he's trying not to lose it, like playing the character, like as he's like
Right.
yelling at this crew member.
But yeah,
now
no,
did
I can
sorry.
totally see why that he got pissed off though.
Before you do that, I was going to say, does this movie continue the continuity of the first three movies, or is it totally new continuity?
I'm pretty sure it's a sequel to Part 3.
All right. I still don't know if I've read anything else. If I've read something like retcon something from the past three movies, like the third one did.
But yeah, I do know that the movie did underperform at the box office, which is a common curse for all the Terminator sequels. All the sequels after Part 2. But yeah, other than that, there's not really much else to say about Terminator's Salvation.
Yeah, not really. I mean,
So,
you do have like the twist of like the main character, I forget his name, actually being a Terminator.
yeah, you're talking about Sam.
Sam Witwer's character.
Yeah, the same guy who, in that same year, was in Avatar.
Oh yeah.
So I guess.
So what?
But yeah, Terminator Genesis. I have no idea why they spelled Genesis the way that they did.
No, was this the first movie in the new timeline?
Yeah, it's a new timeline where, well, Arnold does come back, and now that's great and all, but the plot is kind of a mess.
Oh, Terminator Genesis. Oh yeah, like the best way to describe it is they try to make it a fan service movie by just cramming everything in there. Like in a complete absolute mess. Like the opening scene alone, you have a recreation of Kyle Reese going back in time. I believe he encounters Arnold's T-800 from the first movie.
Yep.
But then you also get a version of the T-1000 jumping in for no reason. And then you have a Sarah Connor, who's already like the badass she's supposed to be in Terminator 2, being guarded by an older Arnold Terminator. Like, basically, it goes batshit insane.
But how she was he like a teenager back in the 70s or something? Still,
They do make Sarah Connor look a little too young in the movie.
Yeah, like I remember in Rambo Rap for Life's video rant on Terminator Genesis, he was saying that Sarah Connor looks like she's like 12.
how's he supposed to be in the first movie?
But yeah, the first one came out in 1984.
But how old was she supposed to be in that movie?
Good question. I have no idea. I'm gonna say mid to late 20s, maybe 30s.
Okay, that makes sense then. If she was like in her early 20s in that movie, then she'd be like a 10-year-old in the 70s.
Oh, and then people give Dark Fate crap for what it did to John Connor. Well, Genesis did it first with the twist of John Connor being converted into a Terminator that looks like freaking looked like those freaking microbots from like freaking Big Hero 6 or something like that.
Yeah, and the fact that they gave that away.
Yeah, they gave it away in the trailers. It's like perfect representation of how trailers spoil too much these days. Like, honestly, freaking Spider-Man No Way Home's efforts to hide Toby and Andrew from the trailers were freaking admirable compared to other shit that's been spoiled by trailers.
Okay, it says the Terminator does not specify Sarah Connor's age or birth date, although according to the original script available on the special edition DVD, she was 19 years old. The film is set in May 1984. Terminator 2: Judgment Day, she is 29. So 10 years later, 19. Should be like 10 years old in Terminator Genesis, apparently.
And in Genesis, the thing with Genesis is that, at least from what like the clips I saw of Genesis, she looked younger than 19.
No, she's supposed to be 19 in the first movie.
Well, the thing is, Genesis's opening scene is supposed to be set during the first movie, like an alternate retelling.
Oh, I thought it was in the 70s.
No, the first movie's in the 80s. Like, it's in 84.
Yeah, it's in 84.
I know. I thought the Terminator Genesis was back in 10 years earlier.
Or no. Oh, I get what you're saying. I think that the old version of Arnold, that's called Pops or something, I think, yeah, that one was sent back in the 70s. And, like, so Sarah Connor was ready in advance, like when the original Terminator and the random T-1000 are sent back.
So she'd be like 10 years old in the Genesis movie, 70s. They showed her like.
Well, I think the idea is that maybe freaking the idea was that Terminator came in when she was like still like a young kid. I'm guessing.
The timeline says Pops T-100 right to Sarah Connor on stage with her.
Oh, and then you just reminded me of the infamous smiling scene, which they try to play for laughs.
So is Genesis about rebooting the first movie or something?
Yeah,
no, the thing with Genesis is that, like I said, it was like it was trying to be a dumb fan service movie, and it was supposed to establish a new trilogy.
Yeah, supposed to, but then Terminator Genesis underperformed at the box office, which is why that they scrapped all that. Alexandra Daddario.
And it wouldn't be the first time they tried to get a new trilogy.
Yeah, and the Dark Fate was supposed to be another new trilogy. But yeah, with the Terminator franchise, they have restarted it so many times where I feel like that the general public pretty much has lost interest in it. But yeah, so okay, do any of you know why that they spelt Genesis wrong?
I think the idea was to make it look like Genesis as in Genesystem or something.
But it's so
trying to do a dumb pun.
I don't know. Maybe the Bible has copyrights on Genesis.
But yeah, and it was a cool idea to have a T-800 turn into a T-1000 at the end.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was cool, but other than that, but the CGI in Terminator 2 looked a lot better than in Terminator Genesis.
Yeah.
Apparently, they go back. They go in the future in this movie. They go from the 8.
They time travel a lot in the movie, I believe.
Yeah, they do.
And
Yeah.
and now I guess that also overrides the first time travel. They're going to go in one direction, and now they're going two directions.
The actor who they got for
Yeah.
that, Jai Courtney, he was way too monotone. He
So
was nowhere near as good as the original guy.
so so why do you think they overridden the time travel rules? It says one direction, now it's both directions. Is it their time travel now?
Because they wanted to make a time travel movie, or they didn't read the original movie's rules.
But yeah, Terminator Genesis, it's a disappointing movie. It had a few cool ideas, but the execution just could have been better.
So I guess this is Kyle and her in the first movie, and just them in Genesis. Totally different actors, obviously, but
Yeah.
she's blonde there and brunette there.
Yeah, lack of continuity there. But yeah, I guess there's nothing else to say about Terminator Genesis.
Yeah, it's pretty forgettable, other than the dumb twist of John Connor being a friggin' stupid Terminator.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, but it was wasted. But yeah, Terminator Dark Fate. So this is what's telling. I was gonna go see it at the movie theater, but then by the time I finally got a chance to see it, not even a month later, it already left the movie theater. So instead of watching that, I went to go see that. Excuse me. I went to go see the Mister Rogers movie instead.
Yeah.
So yeah, and okay, spoilers for Terminator Dark Fate. What they did to John Connor, totally justified for why people are pissed off at it.
They kill him off. Sorry, he's no longer the the series protagonist. It's this random
And
girl now.
the fact that they killed him off by the T-800, which is such a slap in the face to...
And they do it at the start of the movie. And they were making an absolutely big deal about how John Connor was going to be in the movie, and they made a big deal about how Edward Furlong was back to play the role. He doesn't even play the role in the movie. All they did was CG his likeness onto another kid.
Yeah, and maybe he played like the, you know, the face, but that's such a slap in the face to everything that happened in Terminator 2.
Yeah.
And yeah, and oh man, Terminator Dark Fate. They finally brought back Linda Hamilton, and that's the best that they could do.
Yeah.
Sarah, your son's dead. Go babysit this new kid now.
But yeah, and then out of all Terminator movies, this is the one that performed at the box office the absolute worst.
Yeah. Like, not even bringing back the R rating saved it.
Nope. Not even Linda Hamilton could even save it. Hey, Landon.
Or Arnold being back in the movie again.
But yeah, so the movie did so poorly with critics and at the box office. We're probably not, if we ever do see a Terminator movie ever again, it's not gonna be until maybe 10 or 20 years.
Yeah, and by then we're sure as hell not getting Arnold and Linda Hamilton back. Like, that's the thing that sucks. Dark Fate was like the last chance we had to see them one more time, because they're getting up there in age. They're not going to be able to do this again.
Arnold is almost 80 years old. You know, the time to bring him back is now. And to me, it just doesn't feel the same to not have Schwarzenegger there.
Yeah.
I mean, could they do without him? Sure, but it just doesn't feel the same, you know. And it just pisses me off that that has to be their last time doing a Terminator film.
Yeah.
And I think I dodged a bullet by not seeing that on the big screen.
I didn't see it in theaters either. I mean, granted, I am a lot less of a movie buff than I used to be. Like, around 2016, 17, I was going basically every weekend I could. By 2019, I was going far less. 2020, I did not go at all. And before you say the obvious, I don't think COVID would have mattered. Like, yeah, COVID had theaters closed up for the most of the year, but with the kinds of movies that were coming out, like straight to streaming, that would have been theatrical, I don't think I would have went to go see anything for the most part.
Yeah, I don't think anything good came out in 2000 anyways. That was that epic to see anyways.
Well, in 2020, I know The Invisible Man came out, and Sonic the Hedgehog.
There's also the first Sonic movie, but I wasn't gonna go see that alone. Like, I would have been forced to see that alone.
But yeah, I genuinely did enjoy those movies. But yeah, the biggest issue people have with the movie is within the first like 5 minutes.
Yeah, like literally, they don't even wait to show friggin' John Connor getting shot.
Now, I will admit, all of the de-aging special effects that they
Yeah,
use, absolutely fantastic. That's some of the best de-aging I have ever seen. I will give the movie credit for that. But the way how they did it, though, is bullshit.
So apparently in this movie, there's a whole new bad guy or something, a whole new computer system. It's not
oh
Skynet. So
yeah, I actually forget what the computer system is. Literally, all it is Skynet, but not really.
Yeah, and what I heard with Dark Fate, I heard that they put like a lot of woke shit in it.
Yeah, there was a lot of focus on like the new character Grace, who's like the protector character, who's like part android weirdly, but not a Terminator. Um, then of course there's then like the random girl being protected. Like at first they're making it seem like that she's gonna give birth to the resistance leader, but then the big twist is like, oh, you're not giving birth to the resistance leader. You're the resistance leader all along.
yeah, I think it'd been funnier, not funnier, but if that little girl, it happened, he was dead, but that girl was John Connor's daughter or granddaughter or something.
No, they like except for having Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor in there, it's like they try to pretend John Connor's not even. Oh, they. I mean, so the evil machine is called like the Rev 9 or something, and they try to do a unique thing. Like they kind of do sort of a TX thing where it has like an android skeleton with some kind of liquid metal, but it looks like those like nanobot Big Hero 6 things again. The unique thing they try to do here is that the liquid metal is able to come off the exoskeleton and act as its own machine. So basically there could be two of them at once. Like that's the gimmick they tried to go with in this one.
Yeah, what's funny, people were saying that Terminator 3, 4, and 5 were the worst ones in the series, but then ever since Dark Fate came out, everyone's been saying that that's the worst one now.
Yeah. I mean, and the sad thing is that that's the movie that James Cameron finally came back for, even if it was like just in a producer role.
Yeah, and so yeah, and then the director was the guy who directed Deadpool.
Yeah, the original Deadpool. And the way he treated fans, like in the lead up to the movie's release, probably didn't do the movie any favors. Like basically, like I think he was like pulling like I mean, I think he was like pulling like the sexism card at one point. Like he's like, "Oh, you just don't like it because it has women in it."
Yeah, well, that's not true.
That is not true. I mean, people wanted Sarah Connor back. She's a woman.
Yeah,
And
and
maybe they would have liked Grace and that other girl if you made them interesting characters and not just copy and paste, like killing off John Connor and just saying, "Oh, this is John Connor now, and you're gonna like it."
yeah, basically what they did is that they pulled a Jurassic Park 3, killing off the T-Rex and going, oh well, now you have to like this person now.
Yeah.
When that's not how it works.
Not to mention, I just remember not only did people want Sarah Connor back, Sarah Connor is like alongside Ellen Ripley, is like one of the quintessential female characters that people always freaking enjoyed, freaking always loved to see. And
Right.
you have the director Tim Miller going, "Oh, you just don't like it because she's here."
When that's not true. That's bullshit.
That's disrespectful, like to what people felt about the first two Terminators.
Oh, it is, yeah, and
Yeah.
that could be one of the reasons why that it bombed at the box office. And on top
Probably
of that,
not the biggest reason, but yeah, probably a reason.
Yeah, she was in her 60s when Dark Fate came out.
Oh, I thought Linda Hamilton only in her 60s?
Yeah.
Oh, why did I think she was older?
but yeah, it's sad to think that we will never see her back.
She herself said that I think even she said she didn't quite. I think she said she had an okay time working on the movie, but I think she said that even she didn't like the final product and she's not interested in doing another.
And yeah, so they had their chance and they screwed it up. But yeah, and at this point, I feel like the Terminator franchise with the general public, it's like that saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me.
And
And
that
yeah,
might have been like the one of the deciding factors in the movie bombing because people were just tired of the movies. Because I mean, with
they
3, Salvation, and Genesis, like each movie did worse than the last.
yeah, and so it's becoming very clear the general public is not interested in Terminator anymore.
However, there was one Terminator thing that released around the time Dark Fate came out, though it has basically nothing to do with it. It was a game called Terminator Resistance.
I remember that.
I don't think I ever heard of that.
So here's the thing. Terminator Resistance is now being hailed by Terminator fans as the best Terminator game.
So it's better than Terminator 3 Redemption?
That's what people are saying. I played Resistance because originally it came out on PS4 and Xbox One, but now there's like a PS5 version that has like enhancements from the PC port. And it also has DLC camp. It has a couple of DLCs. But here's the curious thing. Do you happen to know about Rambo the video game?
Are you talking about the one on the NES?
No, the PS3 one, the rail shooter.
No.
You don't know about that one?
No.
Rambo the video game, the rail shooter on PS3 and 360 and PC, it was regarded as one of the worst movie license games and one of the worst rail shooters ever made. That same developer made Terminator Resistance, and it was a massive redemption story for them.
Okay.
Like, I'm not saying the game is, like, flawless. Like, you can tell, like, it was made by a studio that didn't have a huge budget to work with. Basically, the best way to describe how the game works is it's kind of like Far Cry a little bit. Like, it has like a crafting system. It's an FPS. It's a little bit open. There's stealth. But the reason why people really enjoy it is because it is extremely faithful to the Terminator lore from the first two movies. Like, the Terminators themselves, you cannot damage with conventional weapons. Like, you have to use either explosives or you have to get a hold of, like, their plasma rifles that they use.
Okay.
So let's see. Then there's also like an original story, like set during the future war, and like slowly as it goes on, it actually connects back to the original movie. Like basically the way they, so basically, like the last part of the game, you actually play out the final battle against the Skynet core. Like you're like you meet John Connor and like he leads it, and like you end up leading a charge to like go destroy the Skynet mainframe. And as it goes on, you actually get reports from like the army that the T-800 and the T-1000 from the first two movies have been sent back. Like basically, there's lots of like good fan service for like fans of the first two movies. Also, there's actually an Easter egg, like early on in the game, like specifically like a part of the game where you're in a hospital, and it's like the first time where you have to like fight off like the actual Terminators, like not just like the spider drones. You actually come across a surgical chair with a resistance soldier strapped to it. It looks like his insides were ripped out, and he was being experimented on by Skynet. And you know who this resistance soldier looks like?
Who?
Robert Patrick.
That is cool.
Yeah, like you get a little Easter egg showing how they possibly made the T-1000. And the T-1000 is you don't fight the T-1000 in the game, but they do allude to it like at the end.
So you're kind of like saying that the Skynet made kind of like they made cover the screen covers.
Basically, they capture resistance soldiers and basically use like their skins to like make their infiltrator units.
That actually sounds pretty good plot line.
So yeah, and they also made a DLC campaign called the Annihilation Line DLC. Basically, all it leads up to is you find out how Kyle Reese got a hold of like the Sarah Connor photo, like from the first movie,
right?
Like the one that he's shown on. I don't know if he shows it to Sarah in the first movie, but he's shown to have it like in the future flashback. But yeah, like Terminator Resistance, like it's competently made. Like it's not like best game ever material, but it's easily the best Terminator game by virtue of not having a whole lot of competition to go up with. And it's like you can tell that the developers really respected the movies. So yeah. Only problem is the only way to play the full amount of the game's content is either on the PC or PS5. The PS4 and Xbox One did not get any of the DLC. That and physical copies are pretty rare. Last I checked.
But anyways, we probably should start wrapping this up.
Well, yeah. Say, before we go, before you got on, we were talking about what would have happened if Terminator met Halloween franchise crossover.
Huh.
It would be a good fight.
Who would actually win that fight?
I was going to say Michael Myers is apparently very resistant of everything, you know.
Well, again, so are the Terminators. Freaking that robot exoskeleton, like, you need explosives or, like, freaking, or as Arnold puts it in the first movie, phase plasma rifle in the 40-watt range to do any significant damage to it.
Or if you crush like his skull, like what happened.
Yeah, like with heavy machinery.
Yeah.
But, like, regular weapons, and especially your fists, forget it. Oh! In Terminator Resistance, you actually do get a stealth weapon called the Termination Knife or something. basically it's like a knife with like all this electricity like strapped to it. It's single use, but if you sneak up on a Terminator to use it, like you can insta kill it by like short circuiting it. But yeah, like I think it was a good thing I brought up Terminator Resistance, because while Dark Fate seemed to finish off the movies, like at least Resistance kind of gave Terminator fans something.
Yeah, something to appreciate after the bad state of the mouse. But
so Eric, what's coming up on your channel?
Has to go. So can we wrap?
Yeah, we can wrap it up.
What's coming up on your channel, Eric?
Some more debunks on Eric the Triceratops and a Christmas special of things that piss me off.
Ooh. You want to give a sneak peek of one of the things that splits you off is?
You'll have to wait on that.
No spoilers, I guess.
Yeah.
For me, next Saturday, we're going to be talking about the Xenarthrias, the animals of South America.
Alrighty.
Thanks for all for joining.
Yeah, of course.
Y'all know what the deal is. Never stop learning. Enjoy the randomness. We'll see y'all next time.